My name is Lisa, and I'm going to share with you about my journey with hypokalemic periodic paralysis. Hypokalemic periodic paralysis is caused by a mutation where there is a small hole at the center of the voltage sensor in the sodium channel protein, which allows for a continuous leak of sodium ions. This leak causes sustained membrane depolarization and action potential failure, thereby paralyzing the muscle. For those of us who are not scientists, I like to explain it in terms of understanding that our muscles are polarized or work properly because we have charged ions, particularly sodium and potassium, in a perfect balance on either side of our muscle cell wall membrane. In my case, however, and in the case of others with hypokalemic periodic paralysis, under certain conditions or following certain triggers, the charged ions are not able to remain in balance, as potassium is inadvertently taken up inside the cell, in spite of the efforts of the ion channels and the sodium-potassium pump, which work endlessly to assure this perfectly balanced state in the normally functioning muscle. The following short videos document a few of the 60 hypokalemic periodic paralysis episodes that I have had through my 52nd year of life, the majority of these occurring between age 42 and 52. I thank my husband for his thoughtfulness in recording these over the last several years so that I could have some kind of record. As you will see, I would never have been able to make the paralysis videos myself. I have also made a few clips to help catch some of the odds and ends that may be pertinent to this condition. I'm particularly making this video for my grown children and for my extended family, though some others will be invited to view it, so that should they or their children suffer similarly, they might be able to use some of my experiences in a way that would help them on their diagnostic and research journey. I do not recommend the later part of this film for young children. The following shows some of the muscle cramps that I will experience in my feet and sometimes legs from time to time. In this case, the left foot. If this video should happen to fall into the hands of a beautician, please do close your eyes for this section. And here we are, just seeing my normal feet. Well, okay, a few pounds heavier. I was hopeful because it seemed that I might be able to tolerate articaine, a local anesthetic given for dental work. You will see that I began to head down the 5 stages that I will describe in the notes at the end of the video, but I did not have a paralysis event the first time I received it. However, the next time it was used for dental work, I had a total and complete paralysis. The effects of the articaine lasted longer than they should have, 7 to 8 hours, a common event for me with most local anesthetics. Still having some anesthetic effect from the articaine. 4:02 p.m. So that'd be 7 hours. Please note I was not driving, but just using the clock to show you. 5 p.m., 8 hours. So here we are the next day. Just wanted to show you when everything's working normally. Looks like this. And when I drink, a later dental procedure with lidocaine.
Here we are a couple hours after the lidocaine. The mouth is still a little bit numb. 11:30 had an episode and had already the potassium came out of it nicely, and I'm going to take another dose of it presently.
Most of the paralysis episodes that I've experienced have been a result of one or two or more triggers. During most typical paralysis episodes, I am able to move my tongue and neck somewhat. The next clips are the first ones taken during a full episode of hypokalemic periodic paralysis. These episodes were not triggered by local anesthetics. The guppy mouth is an indication that paralysis is commencing. Please note that any patient in an episode of paralysis is fully aware of all that is happening around him or her and can feel pain and can understand everything, even if they may not be able to respond. Another episode at a later date. Sometimes during paralysis, there can be long gaps between breaths. It is also not uncommon to experience nausea during this period. My husband is helping to reposition me here. Some of you may be wondering why I am not in the hospital during such times, but it's very complicated to explain on this video. However, I'm very, very blessed that my husband is an emergency physician, so he is much more capable of helping me than anybody I have been taken to for medical help during an episode of paralysis. The next clip, my husband will give manual airway support, which is enormously helpful. Even during the episodes where I don't have full respiratory arrest, it still makes the breathing significantly easier. Although we do not have videos of the 4 times that I experienced complete respiratory arrest, my husband has saved my life using this method and being attentive and extremely helpful to me during these difficult times. You will see the oxygen saturation beginning to drop. Note the oxygen saturation coming back up, thanks to his manual airway manipulation with his strong hands. Although my problem is very rare, I am just another person with another condition that is preparing me for life with God and eternity. It is teaching me patience, surrender, humility, joy, and most of all, trust. I wholeheartedly believe in the value of human life, including my own. What are some of the burdens of hypokalemic periodic paralysis? For the patient, burdens can include the battle to get control over one's health, to find physicians who can give us meaningful support and take the time to learn with us about our condition, chronic muscle pain, and in my case, frequent headaches, lost days of work for some, or the inability to hold a full-time job due to the erratic nature of episodes and the predictable fatigue or loss of endurance that follows. Trying to explain to friends and acquaintances why we have missed an important meeting or a promised birthday party when we look periodically great, and then struggling to catch up with all that we had to forego while we were recovering. In my case, I also have postural orthostatic tachycardia called POTS, which contributes to the difficulty I have with tasks involving bending or standing too long. Simple tasks such as cooking, for example, which involve bending to get pots and pans, or refrigerator items, or farm tasks such as bending to fill buckets at the farm, can precipitate considerable fatigue. In essence, the person with periodic paralysis can feel like they are living almost like an elderly person because of the constraints, limitations, and careful attention to avoiding triggers, though we may look young and capable on the outside. Inside our bodies is a constant battle being waged that only we can feel, and seldom can others enter into our daily struggles. This is certainly a feature that is common to many other chronic conditions that people experience today. By far, for me, with my particular unknown mutation of hypokalemic periodic paralysis, the most difficult part, hands down, is the daily struggle with fatigue. It is ever present, even though I have many periods where I'm functioning well. I know that those periods are limited, usually not longer than 3 hours or so on a particular day. So if I have a 3-hour up, you can be pretty sure on the flip side there will be a down that can last any amount of time. And then it will come back and I'll have a nice 3-hour up. But basically, that has been the hallmark struggle that I have had for the last 20 years. Underlying worries may include fears over death, an unpredictable dependence on others, being alone during episodes, being unable to call for help, being unable to advocate for ourselves during episodes, brain death or mental impairment if the airway is compromised, vomiting during episodes, worries about the remote possibility of losing limbs midwinter during below zero weather should the cold weather unexpectedly provoke an outdoor attack, not being found during an attack, being taken to the hospital and having personnel there not know how to treat your condition properly, such as accidentally giving you a normal sodium chloride IV and potentially causing another episode of paralysis or making the one you came in with much worse, and so on. Many patients experience a more permanent decline in muscle function with time, while others experience good days and bad days without permanent decline until older age. There can also be secondary problems, which I will not get into here. For the spouse, the burdens may involve concerns that they will not be available to assist or to help their PP spouse properly, fear of repeated near loss of their loved one, difficulty making plans for the future because of the needs of the affected spouse and the lack of a clear outcome. Travel can be quite stressful for the affected and non-affected spouse, since either way the non-affected spouse will have to care for the affected one who is now at higher risk due to the various stresses involved in travel, or they'll have to hold their breath if they let the affected spouse enjoy some time away by themselves and hope that everything goes okay. For the children, there can be fear of drawing close to the person they see as potentially leaving them, or worry that they will not know what to do. There can be a feeling of being gypped of the ability to do things as a family that might not be appropriate for the parent or sibling with periodic paralysis to do. I like to think that I'm pretty amazing in a chair, but that's not worth much. Furthermore, I can't stay in a chair all day because that will precipitate an episode due to the prolonged immobility. So how can the average person help to make the journey for someone with periodic paralysis easier? If you are with a friend who has this condition and you see that they are starting to look more tired than usual, more lethargic, maybe a little bit depressed even, maybe sad, or the affect in the face is starting to not be normal, be sure to slow down and say, hey, can I stay with you a while? That way you will give the person a chance to discern themselves if they are heading downhill quickly, slowly, if they might need you to call for help, to call their spouse or to call 911. If you can kind of notice these things earlier, that this person really does not seem like their normal lively self, it can be an enormous asset just to give that time, because things happen slowly and it takes a while sometimes to discern if you are going to need help or if this is something that will just resolve by allowing yourself to just rest for a while. Also, many of us wear a bracelet or a necklace with some emergency information, and it's good to look at that if you see that the person you're with is really beginning to have a problem and maybe they're not able to communicate with you. For me, I carry in my purse a pink envelope, and my emergency bracelet says, please look in purse at pink envelope. And that way you know that all the current information is there with phone numbers and directions about what to do. If you have the unfortunate experience of being with somebody during an acute phase, another thing that can be enormously helpful to the patient is to have you stay with them. They are completely unable to advocate for themselves, and nothing can be more helpful than having a friend remain at the bedside near their head so that they can be listening if the patient is able to communicate any word or sound that may help you to understand what the needs are. Regarding how you might support a person with periodic paralysis during the non-acute phase, I think one of the biggest ways is to understand that tomorrow or the next day or the day after that, things are not going to get better. Yes, there will be various ups and downs, but basically the disease remains unchanged unless some very big breakthroughs are made. It could be helpful to simply ask, is there anything I could do for you that could make your life a little easier today? Perhaps a trip to the store, picking up one of the kids from an event, and so on. reaching out so that the person with chronic illness doesn't have to do all the asking. Often I like to tell people that I am doing well because at that moment I am. 3 hours later, however, I may be on my last legs or anywhere in between. Nobody likes to ask for help, but especially people who have to do it often. So if you can share in the burden by offering, that can really be a huge help. Sometimes when I get really, really behind with everybody, behind on phone calls and texts and emails, and people think that I've forgotten about them, sometimes I'll send a little flag, white flag, or a banana on my text message, and it just means kind of asking for a truce, that I just need time, and I still care about you. I still want to be with you. I want to help you. I want to talk with you, but I need time to catch up and get my feet back under me. One of the things that makes me the saddest is my inability to be dependable for other people. I see somebody in need and I think, oh, how I'd love to offer. Could I drive you to your appointment or visit an elderly person that I know? And I just am not able to take on beyond what my own responsibilities are. I will not get in a car and drive if I know that I'm not in a normal state. This is really difficult then to promise people that you're going to pick them up when you need that flexibility to say, nope, today is not a day that I can drive, or maybe during these 2 hours, this is not a good time, but after I rest, it may be perfect. If you are blessed with good health, just remember what a blessing it is to be able to pitch in and help somebody else. It truly is a blessing and it lifts your spirits. And I think most of us with this condition wish that we could be more available to other people. I dedicate this little film, sharing a sliver of my journey with periodic paralysis, to all those who suffer with the disease, to their families and friends who help them, to my own family who has given up so much for me, and especially my husband who has gone above and beyond the call of duty, showing steadfast sacrifice, commitment, and love over a long, long journey together, growing more and more sensitive to my situation with every year that has passed, and truly putting love into action to keep me going. I know ratings only come in 5 stars, but if there were a 6th star, it would be his. I also thank my parents who have given me everything that was important in life, and my mom who continues to inspire me every day to become a better person. And for our children who have been just absolutely amazing over the years. They've been funny, they've been kind, they've been accepting of life as it comes. And for my aunt and uncle who provided so many wonderful experiences and memories for me. This is especially wonderful when I have to wait to get back to normal state. I can think back on those times with great joy. And with every fiber of my being, I would like to thank Almighty God for His tenderness, His continual presence in my life, and particularly during my hours of need. He has always been there. He has always looked out for me. And I hope it will encourage you as you age and grow in this life and become weaker and more vulnerable. Please know that He is truly trustworthy. And I would like to thank Him for everything, for the gift of life, for breathing life into me, that I might continue to live in spite of this disease. And finally, in case any researcher or physician might happen to take a peek at this film, I just first want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your work. You have a very small fan club because there are not that many people that have this condition to be in your club, but just know that we are, even if we sound and feel very frustrated at times because of the difficult journey and the lack of support that has been a very common feature among most people trying to find a diagnosis and trying to find how they can get help and support on their journey. So we don't expect you to have the answers. We just hope that you understand our need to have our dignity respected, to stay with us on this long, long journey, and to build a working relationship that can last far into the future.